Story of Killer the Crook.
And this organization has been linked to some of the most thoughtless violence our community has suffered for the last several years. We have supported the status of this gang as a criminal organization known as New Money So Sick Gang.
Yo, back in the day, you never seen a video of Killer getting kidnapped?
Clearly do not want to play the streets. That's why they're in Calgary or wherever they are dropping diss songs. They're not in Toronto. They're in Calgary.
The area that they control is done by through violence and threats of retribution for anyone operating in their area of control.
Say the dirty talk for you. We bring out the mops. My niggas talking like they sick, like they don't flag on the top.
And Killer, how about that? The man, you got kidnapped, shot, and robbed. Allegedly, you want to conspire murder against me and get booked up.
Please join me in welcoming Dramatic.
What type of intro?
Shut all my niggas though.
How does a rising Toronto rapper, once hailed as one of the city's most talented, find himself caught in a deadly web of gang retribution and later accused of masterminding a $6.7 million jewelry heist? To the city, Killer the Crook is a gifted lyricist known for his raw storytelling and street realism, but behind the music was Christian Collins, a man shaped by trauma and survival. His mother was murdered when he was a child, his father was in and out of jail, and by 16, he'd already been robbed at gunpoint and left tied up. Years later, he'd survive an assassination attempt when 40 bullets tore through the car he was sitting in. The same pain that fueled his artistry also pulled him deeper into the life he rapped about, one that would eventually tie his name to one of the biggest robberies in Canadian history. For the streets, the story only boosted his reputation. For investigators, it confirmed what they had long suspected, that Crook wasn't just rapping about crime, he was actively living it. But to understand how he ended up in that position, you have to go back to the beginning. Before we continue, a quick shout out to today's sponsor.
Come on, Mud. Ad? An ad? Are you serious, Renew? Come on, Mud. Hey, there's only
August
one beginning.
6th, 1994, Christian Collins, better known as the Crook, was born into instability from day one. His mother was just 17 when she got caught in a cycle of stripping and heavy drug use. By age 3, she was ready to give him up to the Children's Aid Society. His father eventually took custody, but he too lived a troubled life, bouncing between the streets and a cell. Crook's stepmother became the most stabilizing figure in his early years, though the household was far from peaceful. It was marked by domestic violence and constant relocations across Toronto's West End. Crook spent his early childhood near Jane Street and Weston Road, a community he describes as rough, but defining. I grew up on Weston Road until I was 14, he recalled. My stepmom at the time felt I was hanging around the wrong people, so she sent me to live with my pops in Ajax for 6 months. The move was meant to distance him from the streets, but it only lasted half a year before he returned to the city. Before that, his family had already relocated closer to downtown Toronto, spending a period living in Parkdale, one of the city's most diverse but turbulent neighborhoods. Throughout his upbringing, Crook also spent long stretches in Mississauga, around the Hurontario area, from as young as 6. He described Mississauga as a second home, a place where he could escape the city but still feel connected to the same street culture shaping him in Weston and Parkdale. But even with those brief escapes, darkness seemed to follow him. Tragedy struck early. At 13, his mother was murdered by her boyfriend, her dismembered body discovered years later. A year later, one of his closest friends was shot and killed. These back-to-back losses hardened him, drawing him closer to the kind of people who offered protection over peace. At 16, Crook was the victim of a gunpoint robbery, an incident that would later be distorted by rumors. When I reached out for clarification, he said, when it comes to the kidnapping situation, that topic is a lot more rumor than truth. I was not kidnapped. I was 16 and robbed at gunpoint by multiple older individuals. I was only a teenager. People use this story to try and paint a negative image about me. I don't bother going back and forth on it, because I live my life freely, and a lot of people that say these things about me can't. That alone should speak volumes. He's since confirmed that he knows exactly who robbed him, but contrary to online speculation, it wasn't anyone from Parmacourt, Parkdale, or Flemo. He maintains it was a simple betrayal, not a targeted hit or gang-related attack. According to his stepmother, Crook was never the same after that period in his teenage years. She recalled how the trauma changed him, how he started to become disinterested and gravitate toward a certain crowd of youth. His aunt echoed the same concern. She described a discernible shift in his demeanor, noting how Crook began spending more time online, bonding with people he called friends. My reservations about these connections sadly materialized, she said, because not long after, Crook became deeply involved in criminal activity.
Convictions?
By 14, Crook's life had already taken a sharp turn. His first youth conviction, for break-and-enter, earned him probation, which he quickly breached. A year later came a drug possession charge, followed by more probation and community service. At 16, he was caught with stolen property and sent to open custody, only to return to probation afterward. By 17, another drug charge landed him on stricter conditions, but constant breaches convinced youth workers that he was high risk and resistant to rehabilitation. When Crook aged into the adult system, the pattern only deepened. At 19, in 2014, he was convicted of 3 break-and-enters across multiple jurisdictions and sentenced to jail time and probation. The following year brought another conviction, this time for break-and-enter, possession of stolen goods, drug possession, and failure to comply, earning him 8 months behind bars and a 5-year weapons ban. By 2017, the cycle had hardened into a lifestyle. At 23, he faced 3 more break-and-enter convictions, along with drug trafficking, possession, and multiple breaches. After spending over 18 months in pretrial custody, he received a 2-year sentence, his first major conviction for trafficking. 2 years later, at 24, he added common assault to his record, then another serious charge for possession of cocaine and fentanyl for the purpose of trafficking. After nearly a year in custody, the court sentenced him to time served and probation. Years later, in an interview with We Love Hip Hop, Crook reflected on those days with striking honesty. He admitted that he spent the majority of his teenage years breaking into homes, surviving off the streets and the thrill of the hustle.
When I was younger, me and my homies, like, when we were younger, we used to do a lot of dumb, like, we used to do, like, a lot of B&Es, and, you know, we used to do, like, a lot of burglaries, a lot of kick doors, and, you know what I'm saying? Allegedly. No, I'll be real with you. Like, I was convicted for this when I was younger, you know, so this is past tense, right? So, like, I could speak on it, right?
Time for it.
That chapter of his life later inspired one of his most introspective tracks, Crook in the Castle, where he turned his past crimes into art, recounting the very break-ins that once defined him. Months after being released on probation for cocaine and fentanyl trafficking, Crook came dangerously close to losing his life. Outside his home, gunmen unleashed more than 40 rounds into his car, hitting him twice but somehow sparing his life. He later recalled the moment vividly. "I was in my car when I got shot," he said. "I wasn't standing outside. I didn't even feel it at first. It just felt like I got punched until about 30 or 40 minutes later. My leg and my arm got hit. It was automatic gunfire, so it all happened fast, within 10 seconds. I saw the people running toward my car and drove off as they started shooting. It was dark, they were covered, I didn't see faces." Despite the chaos, he managed to escape with his life. In a moment that showed both his humor and resilience, he later joked that what bothered him most was his ripped Amiri jeans. "I only had 2 pairs at the time," he laughed. The shooting underscored how deeply he was entrenched in the city's violent street politics, but it also marked a turning point, a brush with death that could have easily ended his story right there. Crook has amassed 13 criminal convictions, spanning break-and-enters, trafficking, theft, assault, and weapons breaches. To the justice system, he was a repeat offender hardened by circumstance. But to the streets, he was Killer the Crook, a rapper whose authenticity quickly fueled his rise in Toronto's rap scene.
Killer the Crook.
Killer the Crook's rise in Toronto's underground rap scene wasn't overnight, but his potential was undeniable from the start. As early as 2009, at just 15, he was releasing music under the name Killer Cam, a nod to Harlem legend Cameron, one of his biggest influences growing up alongside 50 Cent, Tupac, and Toronto rap pioneer Sam G. His early videos were raw and unpolished, a reflection of his focus on lyricism over luxury.
Yo, might be cold, but we colder. We ain't riders, we rollers. Bullets like yoga to fold it. Pump fly your head off your shoulder. You pushing rocks and move boulders. I already told you.
Backed by his crew's straight cash and young staff, Crook stayed consistent throughout the early 2010s, steadily dropping tracks that have since been taken down or lost to time. Around the same period, he appeared in the background of videos from other rising Toronto acts like Roni and the Don't Get Close crew, one of the city's hottest movements at the time. Being around them gave Crook early exposure and credibility, showing he was aligning himself with the right people in Toronto's growing rap ecosystem. Fast forward to 2017, when he finally got his big break with True Story, a track that made serious waves across the city and, for many, including myself, remains one of the best Toronto-bred records to date. It marked a clear turning point in his career, the moment when his raw storytelling began earning him recognition beyond his block. In the song, he raps,
This is true story. Don't give a fuck about your niggas or which block you're from. How much shots you beat, or how much rocks you slung. My niggas came from the gutters, so we know the slums. We ain't new to guns and we ain't new to drugs. So if you really want that action, come and get you some.
making it
Come
clear
and get
his
you
lyrics
some.
weren't for show. They reflected what he saw, lived, and survived. This marked his true entry into Toronto's fiercely competitive underground market, where music and street politics often blurred together. Before long, those same ties would spark a volatile feud with his former friends, one that would spill far beyond the music. In 2021, a major controversy shook the city's rap scene when Crook released a diss track aimed squarely at rival artist Sick People, a well-known figure from Parma Court and a member of the 10 Times movement. The song, titled Talk Facts, a remix of New York drill rapper D-Thing's viral hit, wasn't just a musical jab, it was a declaration of war. The beat itself sampled the 2011 hit record, Somebody That I Used to Know, a hauntingly fitting choice, since Sick People was someone that Crook used to know. In the track, he taunted Sick People over his own shooting incident, claiming he was left begging police for help after being shot in the leg, and took aim at several fallen 10 Times members like Lotto Max, who police said was targeted and killed in a 2015 drive-by shooting.
Try and turn that boy top to a drop. We get the location, we making it hot. All on my dick, you a fan or op? Talking about killer got shot, but won't talk about when he got shot. Them bullets so hot, made him scream for the cops.
In response, Sick People dropped his own diss track over the same beat. In the song, he referenced the 2019 assassination attempt on Crook's life, claiming that his side was responsible for the shooting and warning that next time he won't survive. He also accused Crook of being a snitch, alleging he was the only one who walked free following his arrest during the Project Sunder takedown. The track didn't stop there. Sick People name-dropped several New Money So Sick gang members, including Syph, Littles, and Green Eyes, further escalating tensions between the two camps.
Everyone's playing a remix on that song. Holy.
On the freeway, that boy almost crashed. Kill yourself, Kurt Cobain. How you the only one home on the raid? And killer got shot as.
Nah, that's shots.
And Liz got shot as. And Green Eyes got shot as. Psych didn't even wanna come home. If I'm a fan, he's a groupie. To the pussy ass man to salute me. Where he's from, that man is a goofy. Circle 5 and 10 in a hoopty. You got shot like I got shot. Difference is you got kidnapped and robbed. And the critic got jammed in box. And then.
That's a the best DJ, man.
I'll go more into
Like every
detail about this
Friday,
gang feud and Project Sunder later in the
really
video,
thinking,
but days after the diss
playing with the
tracks dropped, the back and forth between Crook and Sick People lit up the city's rap scene, flooding comment sections and Reddit threads with speculation. But what started as lyrical warfare quickly turned into real controversy. The diss sparked heavy backlash after Sick People's version mysteriously disappeared from YouTube. Many rappers and fans accused Crook of filing a copyright strike, branding him a rat. Crook later addressed the accusations in an interview, insisting he had nothing to do with the removal and suggesting someone else might have used his name to make a false claim.
There was rumors that you were taking down people's songs as well.
Yeah, of course.
So to clear that up too, because you know,
Because
like,
you know the real, fab. They're gonna say whatever the they want to say, fab. You get what I'm saying? But listen, bro. That's not even at the time. I didn't even own the rights to the beat. I didn't even own the rights to none of that. You know what I'm saying? So I don't even understand how that would be possible for me to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? My name is on the internet under my Spotify. I'm verified. You know what I'm saying? My name has to be on the internet. Anybody can go on the internet, go take my name, and go do whatever the they want to do with it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because realistically, you know, I'm putting up videos. Are age restricting my videos, reporting my videos, and they're getting age restricted. And, you know, so there's people behind there working on the computers. You know, who knows, right? But listen, for me to take down a man, do their own business, dog. You know what I'm saying?
The irony was hard to ignore. Years before the beef, Crook and Sick People were friends, even appearing in the same videos and moving in similar circles. But once sides were drawn, they became sworn enemies, mirroring the larger conflict between 10 Times and 10 Down, one of Toronto's most active gang rivalries.
Wow.
Known for its influence stretching from Scarborough to Peel region, 10 Down is a powerful network of block alliances with roots in Chesterlee, Wixon Trail, Mississauga's 5N10, Thorncliffe Park, and Allenbury Gardens. On the other side is the 10 Times movement, primarily made up of crews from Flemo and Parmacourt, two East End neighborhoods that have long shared blood ties and street rivalries. The tension between the two movements escalated throughout the mid-2010s, peaking after the murders of Jeezy and Lotto Max, both respected 10 Times members whose deaths left lasting wounds.
Lotto Max.
Things worsened after the killing of Gilly from Allenbury Gardens, who was allegedly shot by a rival 10 Times member named M.A., igniting a fresh wave of retaliation. The most recent clash unfolded on Canada Day in 2023. That evening, several 10 Times members and affiliates, including Sick People and Big Serp, were inside a Mississauga recording studio reportedly working on new music in collaboration with Toronto blog page Keep Sick Solid. The owner of the page was also in attendance, along with several members of Shots Up Mafia, a West End crew known to be closely aligned with 10
How did he get all that information?
What began as a routine studio session quickly turned into chaos. Around 6:30 p.m., gunfire erupted outside the building. Witnesses said more than 50 rounds were exchanged, leaving vehicles and storefronts sprayed with bullets. A leaked video from the aftermath showed one man lying wounded on the ground outside the entrance. When police arrived, they found more victims suffering from gunshot wounds. 3 men were rushed to trauma centers across the GTA, one in life-threatening condition, while a 4th victim made his own way to a local hospital. Among the injured was Keep Sick Solid's owner, who was caught in the crossfire and struck by a stray bullet. Investigators later confirmed the shooting was targeted, but none of the victims cooperated with police. A stolen white Ram pickup truck believed to have been used by the suspects was later discovered abandoned in Caledon. In the days that followed, speculation spread quickly. Though Crook wasn't anywhere near the studio that night, he appeared in photos taken shortly after the shooting, posing with several 10 Down members, including Syph. The timing fueled online debate and street rumors that the attack may have been carried out by members of the New Money So Sick gang and their affiliates from Haywan Gang. While police never confirmed those claims, within Toronto's rap scene, the incident was viewed as another escalation, a violent reminder of how deep the feud between 10 Times and 10 Down had become. Against this volatile backdrop, Crook's music and image became intertwined with the streets he represented. He's closely tied to the New Money So Sick gang, a Mississauga-based criminal organization linked to multiple shootings and major acts of gun violence across the Greater Toronto area. By 2019, the group became the focus of a massive police investigation known as Project Siphon. As part of the takedown, 88 people were arrested and over 800 charges were laid, including participation in a
How much is this?
criminal organization, human trafficking, and murder. Investigators seized 34 firearms, nearly $1.4 million in cash, and more than $1.9 million worth of drugs. Among the shootings connected to the gang was the September 14th, 2019 ambush outside an apartment building on Dossel Avenue in Saga, where 17-year-old Jonathan Davis was killed and several others were injured. The gang was also tied to the October 22nd, 2019 murder of 28-year-old Giovanni Delahaye and the August 3rd, 2020 killing of Abdi Fatah Sulla, who police believe was targeted because of his involvement in an illegal cannabis delivery network linked to New Money So Sick. Crook was among those initially charged in Project Siphon, facing counts for participating in a criminal organization, multiple drug and breach charges, and 4 firearm-related offenses, but all of those charges were later dropped. According to Project Siphon documents, someone had even been hired to kill Sick People, a revelation that Sick himself would later address in a heated Instagram livestream where he accused Crook and his affiliates of being behind the plot.
That's crazy.
Talking about you want to conspire allegedly, you want to conspire murder against me and get booked up. You're right.
I think he was. I don't even know.
In the end,
but
what
he
started
was
as a lyrical rivalry
Earlier
had
he
turned
was,
into something far more dangerous, a street war playing out through diss tracks and police investigations. But as the music scene heated up, law enforcement was already closing in. The escalating violence between 10 Times, 10 Down, and their affiliates triggered the launch of Project Sunder. Sunder is a massive year-long investigation that began in the fall of 2019 targeting the Egg West Crips, one of the city's most active street gangs. The operation brought together Toronto police and several other law enforcement agencies across Ontario in what would become one of the largest anti-gang operations in the province's history. By the time the dust settled, police seized 31 firearms valued at approximately $115,000, over $300,000 in cash, and over $1.5 million in narcotics. According to investigators, the operation successfully dismantled the hierarchy of the Egg West Crips, and many of its key leaders were among those arrested. One of them was Bizloke, a well-known Toronto rapper and close friend of Crook. And before long, Crook himself would find his name entangled in the same probe, facing charges that would link his rising rap career to one of the largest organized crime takedowns in Canadian history.
Project Sunder.
The first chapter of Crook's downfall unfolded in the spring of 2020, just months after he had been released from jail. He'd spent several months behind bars on 5 firearm-related charges after police raided his residence in 2019, shortly after he filmed a music video. During the search, investigators found multiple guns, setting off yet another chapter in his long-running battle with the law. When he walked free, it didn't take long for him to fall back into the same cycle. Between March and April 2020, Crook was running trips from Toronto to Chagin First Nation on Manitoulin Island. Wiretaps caught his voice plotting, bragging, calculating. He knew the prices up north were double what they were back home. He timed his visits around government check days,
feds are on the phone.
moving small amounts of cocaine and crack, selling gram by gram. On one call, his frustration slipped through. The price of a kilo had jumped from $42,000 to $53,000. "I can't front nobody," he explained. Even though the hike cut into his profit, he kept his prices steady for customers. Police tracked his phone data, watching him travel north in late March, then again in mid-April. On April 18th, the OPP set their trap. In Sudbury, just before he could reach the island, they pulled him over. The search turned up 24 grams of cocaine, 46 oxy pills, and a digital scale coated in white residue. Crook was arrested, but by the end of the day, he was out on bail. His car and his phone were handed back, and he wasn't finished. Less than 24 hours later, the wiretaps lit up again. Crook was back in business on Manitoulin, still moving product. Police began to suspect they hadn't found everything he was carrying that night in Sudbury, and Crook took advantage of their mishap. The second chapter came in the fall. By September 2020, Crook was staying in a condo in Vaughan, just outside the city. To the casual eye, he was keeping low. But Project Sunder hadn't stopped watching. A confidential informant tipped them off. Crook was illegally in possession of a gun. It was
confidential informant.
So on September 9th, officers moved in. They waited in the lobby of his building. As soon as Crook walked through the doors, they grabbed him. He had $1,700 in cash on him, while the raid on his unit turned up bagged drugs, a digital scale, and multiple phones. But the real discovery was in his rented Honda parked underground. Under the steering column, they found nearly 43 grams of cocaine.
What?
And alongside it, a Ruger 9mm handgun loaded with 8 live rounds. Forensics sealed the case. Crook's DNA was on the gun, and his driver's license was in the car. The weight of the evidence was crushing. To make matters worse, Crook wasn't even supposed to be near a firearm. A weapons ban from 2019 legally barred him from touching one. In the end, there was no beating the case. Crook pled guilty to 5 offenses: cocaine trafficking, possession for trafficking, proceeds of crime, and illegal firearm possession.
Wait, what's the difference between both of these?
Guilty to 5 offenses: cocaine trafficking,
trafficking,
possession for trafficking,
and then possession of
crime,
trafficking,
and illegal firearm possession. His double life, the rapper and the hustler, had finally collided. But then, something changed. After being released on bail in October 2020, Crook moved back in with his longtime girlfriend, Ms. Shaw, his high school sweetheart. She was pregnant with their first child. For the first time, he had something to lose and something to live for. He later testified that the pregnancy pushed him to focus on his music. He wanted to change, court documents later read. He began writing and going to the studio in a much more serious way. In May 2021, their daughter was born. Fatherhood grounded him. His raps began to sound different, more reflective, less reckless. He talked about making music as a business. You could hear the shift in tone. He was chasing something bigger than respect in the streets. Fast forward to October 2023, Crook, now 29, stood in court again. This time, before Justice Michael Code of the Ontario Superior Court. Despite his long record, Justice Code saw signs of rehabilitation, a young father trying to rebuild his life through music. In a rare show of leniency, the judge handed him a conditional sentence of 2 years less a day to be served under house arrest with community service. I am satisfied that he is completely reformed, Justice Code wrote in his decision. But just days later, that faith would be tested after Crook's name surfaced yet again, this time tied to one of the biggest luxury watch heists in Canadian history.
Yo, he was this close. This close. 2 years and that's it. He would have been like free. Whether he hit this robbery, 6.7.
On October 24th, 2023, Crook was at the courthouse, entering into a community supervision order. Cell tower analysis later placed his phone pinging off towers near the courthouse that day. 2 days later, he checked in with his probation officer in Pickering. Surveillance cameras outside showed him arriving in a gray Ford Bronco, dressed in a matching gray Nike tracksuit. What seemed routine at the time was anything but. Within hours of leaving that probation meeting, Crook's phone activity traced him across Highway 401 towards South Etobicoke. At 3:10 p.m., cameras at a Home Depot on North Queen Street caught him on video, still in the gray tracksuit, hood up, mask on. He bought 2 packs of DeWalt heavy-duty walkie-talkies, 4 radios in total. He didn't walk back to his Bronco alone. Someone in a black BMW SUV picked him up, looped the lot, then dropped him back at the Bronco. A subtle move, but investigators would later piece every move together. By October 27th, the setup was already in motion. Surveillance inside 119 Spadina Avenue, the downtown building where Distinctive Time operated, showed 2 men scoping the 6th floor. One wore a black hoodie, the other, disguised in FedEx gear, held a yellow walkie-talkie. They rang the buzzer, posing as couriers, but no one answered. They left empty-handed. 3 days later, on October 30th, at 1:45 p.m., the suspects returned, dressed exactly the same. The FedEx man carried a small cardboard box, claiming it was a delivery. As soon as the door cracked open, the second suspect in the black hoodie and balaclava rushed in, guns drawn. They tackled several employees to the floor and bound them with duct tape. The delivery box was no delivery at all. Inside were reusable shopping bags meant to carry loot. The target was clear, the massive safe holding cash and high-end watches. The owner himself, under the gun, opened it. The heavy door swung open to reveal rows of Rolexes, Patek Philippe's, and Audemars, each worth tens of thousands of dollars. One by one, Rolexes and other luxury timepieces were stuffed into bags and boxes. The haul was staggering: 155 watches, warranty cards, and serials included, plus $200,000 in cash. In total, $6.7 million. But in the rush, mistakes were made. The cardboard box was left behind. Inside, a Home Depot receipt for the walkie-talkies, a black Nike balaclava, and a medical mask. Forensic scientists later tested them. On the balaclava, DNA results came back. It was greater than 1 trillion times more likely to be Crook than anyone else. The mask too carried his...
Come on, brother. Oh my goodness. He forgot that one thing that could have...
genetic fingerprint. Witness descriptions painted the scene. The FedEx suspect, white, stocky, bearded. The second suspect, younger, light-skinned, black, slim, around 6 feet tall. When Crook was finally arrested for the robbery on May 9th, 2024, police wasted no time piecing everything together. One of the arresting officers noted down his details: 29 years old, 6 feet tall, 198 pounds. During the search of his residence, investigators seized his cell phone and a gray Nike tracksuit top, nearly identical to the one worn by the man spotted at Home Depot on October 26, 2023. Parked in the garage was a Mercedes-Benz. Surveillance officers had already seen Crook behind the wheel of that same car just days before. When they searched the trunk, they found a pair of white Nike Air Force Ones, a black balaclava, and gray Nike track pants, the same outfit captured on surveillance in the days leading up to the heist. It was also a near-perfect match to the man seen in footage from the robbery. To police, the evidence was damning. To Crook's defense, it was too convenient. His lawyer, Kim Schofield, known for representing several high-profile Toronto rappers, argued that Crook was being framed. It is strange and perplexing. She told the court in July 2024 that the very items linking Crook to the robbery are literally delivered in a box. She claimed someone had planted the evidence to implicate him, and that the walkie-talkies were simply props for a music video. Months earlier, in December 2023, Crook had stood before Justice Michael Code, asking for permission to travel abroad to promote his music career. The judge denied the request but encouraged him to stay on the right path, saying, "You need to keep up the really good work you're doing and get further down the path." When Crook appeared again after the robbery arrest, Code's tone was different, disappointed, but not without hope. He revoked the conditional sentence, ordering Crook to serve the remaining 15 months in custody. "I hope it's not that I was wrong," the judge said. "I hope it's just that I was too soon." He reminded Crook of the moment he broke down after seeing his 3-year-old daughter in court. "You were really upset," Code said softly. "Be a man. Be strong."
Be strong.
Then, with a final note that lingered in the air, "I still have hope for you." Outside the courthouse, Crook stayed silent, but later, in a private text exchange with the Toronto Star, he opened up about the weight of it all. "I don't know one person that really lives this life. That wouldn't take a way out if it was that easy, but this life follows you, and it shows no mercy."
What?
After spending 15 months in custody, Crook was released on bail under strict conditions, wearing an ankle monitor and reporting regularly while waiting for trial. But even under watch, he didn't fade from the scene. Instead, he doubled down on his music. He dropped Who Decides War, his most polished and personal project yet, an album that blended introspective storytelling with standout features from artists like Skilla Baby and Northside Benji. That momentum carried him into 2024, when he signed a deal with Warner Music Canada, a milestone few from his background ever reach. Then, in October 2025, came the moment that could have ended everything. Crook stood trial for one of Canada's largest luxury watch heists. The case gripped Toronto, but on October 22, 2025, Ontario Superior Court Justice Sheila Ray cleared him of all charges. She issued a 43-page ruling that addressed each of the 10 extraordinary coincidences prosecutors said tied Crook to the heist and dismissed them one by one.
Wow.
The walkie-talkies he bought at Home Depot days before the robbery? The judge ruled it was entirely plausible he purchased them for use in a music video, not a robbery. The box with the walkie-talkie receipt left at the crime scene? She found it unlikely that perpetrators of such a calculated heist would carry incriminating evidence into the building.
That's true, that's true.
The balaclava and mask that tested positive for Crook's DNA? Again, Ray found it reasonable that those items had been discarded separately, not intentionally planted or used in the crime. She went further, rejecting the Crown's claim that his resemblance to one of the masked suspects meant guilt. "There are thousands of people in Toronto who look like him," she wrote, noting the weakness of the eyewitness identification. As for the white shoes in his car, she said they were common and unremarkable.
Facts.
The cash found in his home? Not suspicious. Lots of people pay for things in cash, she said, refusing to accept the Crown's suggestion that it reflected criminal behavior. Even his interest in luxury watches didn't move her, especially since none of the stolen Rolexes were ever recovered from his possession. In the end, Ray concluded that the prosecution's case relied on speculation, not certainty. Despite the Crown's attempt to weave 10 coincidences into a story of guilt, she said the evidence failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Crook was involved. Her decision ended with a rare statement of confidence that the evidence simply did not meet the threshold for conviction. For Crook, the ruling was more than just a legal victory. It was vindication, the clearing of his name after years of public scrutiny and media portrayal. Now acquitted, he walks free, ready to decide, once again, who writes his story.
Yo, that's crazy. She really just, like, you're dismissed. Don't worry, I got you. Hey, that's...
I'm going hard, I need to go again. They call me slipping, fucking watch, but I don't slip again.